What if the man you keep seeing in your dreams wasn't just in your head? What if he was real and getting closer every night? This is the terrifying true story of Sofia and the stranger who stepped out of her nightmares into her bedroom. It all started on a quiet night. Sofia was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone. The room was dark except for the soft light of her screen. Outside, the city was silent. She felt tired and soon put her phone aside, closed her eyes and drifted into sleep. At first, the dream felt normal. She was standing in a long hallway she didn't recognize. The walls were old and covered with peeling paint. A faint yellow light flickered above her. The air was cold, and the sound of her own breathing echoed around her. Then she saw him. At the far end of the hallway stood a tall man. His face was pale, almost white, and he wore a black hat pulled low over his forehead. His eyes, or where his eyes should have been, were just dark, empty holes. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, watching her. Sofia felt her stomach twist with fear. She wanted to turn around and run, but her feet felt stuck to the ground. The man tilted his head slightly, as if studying her. His lips curled into a faint smile, and even though he said nothing, she felt like he knew everything about her. The hallway seemed to stretch longer with every second, putting more distance between them. Yet she felt like he was getting closer without taking a single step. A cold breeze touched her cheek, and she realized she could smell him. An old, damp smell, like wet earth and rotting leaves. Her heart pounded. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The man took one slow step forward. The light above flickered harder. Suddenly, Sofia woke up. She was in her own bed, breathing heavily, her sheets damp with sweat. She tried to calm herself, telling herself it was just a dream. But the image of his pale face stayed in her mind. That was the first night Sofia saw the man who would change her life forever. The next day, Sofia tried to forget the dream. She told herself it was nothing, just her mind playing tricks. She kept busy with work, met her friend Mia for coffee, and avoided talking about it. But deep down, the man's pale face was still in her head. That night, she went to bed later than usual, hoping she would be too tired to dream at all. She pulled the blanket over herself and kept the lamp on, as if that would help. At first she slept peacefully, but then she found herself back in the same hallway. The flickering yellow light was there again. The peeling walls looked worse. And at the end of the hallway, the man was waiting. This time he didn't just stand still. His head slowly lifted, and she felt those empty black eyes lock onto her. Her breath caught in her throat. She couldn't move, just like before. Then she heard it. A whisper. It was slow, deep, and chilling. Sofia. The sound of her name made her skin crawl. She could feel it vibrating in her chest, as if the voice wasn't coming from his mouth, but from inside her own head. He took another step forward, his shoes making no sound on the floor. The hallway seemed smaller now, like it was closing in around her. She wanted to scream for help, but her lips wouldn't open. The man raised his hand slightly, pointing at her. His long, thin fingers trembled as if he was reaching across the space between them. Sofia's heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Then, without warning, she jolted awake. She was in her bed again, breathing fast. The lamp she had left on was still glowing. Everything looked normal, except her wrist. There, on her skin, was a faint red mark, in the exact spot where the man had almost touched her in the dream. Sofia sat up in bed, staring at her wrist. The red mark looked almost like a fingerprint, faint but real. She rubbed it, thinking maybe she had scratched herself while sleeping, but it didn't hurt, and the shape was too perfect. The thought hit her like a wave. Could he have touched me? She shook her head, telling herself it was impossible. He was just a dream. Dreams can't hurt you, right? Trying to ignore the mark, Sofia went about her day. She wore a long-sleeved shirt to work so no one would ask questions. But she couldn't stop glancing at her wrist every now and then. The more she looked, the darker the mark seemed to get, as if it was sinking into her skin. By the afternoon, she couldn't take it anymore. She decided to tell her best friend Mia. They met at a small cafe they always went to. Sofia sat down and rolled up her sleeve. "Look," she said quietly. Mia frowned, leaning closer. What happened? Sofia told her everything. The hallway, the pale man, the black hat, the empty eyes, and the whisper of her name. She explained how she woke up with the mark exactly where he almost touched her. Mia laughed at first, shaking her head. "You've been watching too many horror movies." But Sofia noticed something strange. As she described the man's face, Mia's smile faded. "What's wrong?" Sofia asked. Mia hesitated. "It's weird. I think I've seen him too." Sofia's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I had a dream last month," Mia said slowly, "about a man who looked just like that, standing at the end of my hallway." They sat in silence for a long moment. For the first time, Sofia realized this wasn't just a bad dream. The man was something else, something that didn't belong in their world. And he wasn't finished with her. That night, Sofia couldn't stop thinking about what Mia said. If Mia had seen him too, then this man, or whatever he was, could move from one person's dream to another. The thought made her skin crawl. She kept the lights on in her apartment and tried to distract herself by watching TV. But something felt wrong. It started small. When she got up to get a glass of water, she noticed her living room chair was slightly turned toward the hallway. She was sure she hadn't left it like that. She pushed it back, thinking maybe she had moved it without realizing. Later, she walked past the bookshelf and saw one of the picture frames tilted to the side. She fixed it, but an hour later it was tilted again. The air in the apartment felt heavier. Every few minutes, Sofia would glance toward the dark hallway, feeling like someone was there, just out of sight. Around midnight, she heard something faint. It was the sound of fabric brushing against the wall, like someone walking slowly past her bedroom door. Her heart started racing. She turned off the TV, holding her breath. Silence. She tried to convince herself it was just her upstairs neighbor, until she remembered she lived on the top floor. A cold draft slipped under her door, even though all the windows were closed. Then she noticed something that froze her in place. Her bedroom door was open wider than before. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, slowly stepping toward the door. The beam of light cut through the hallway nothing. But the chair in the living room was turned toward her again. Her hands shook as she backed into her room, locked the door, and climbed into bed. That was the first night she realized the man from her dreams might not need her to be asleep to find her. The next evening, Sofia felt exhausted. She hadn't slept well for days, and her nerves were on edge. Every sound in the apartment made her jump. She decided to go to bed early, hoping to get some rest. She locked her bedroom door, closed the curtains, and left the small lamp on beside her bed. For a while, everything was quiet. The soft hum of the fridge in the kitchen was the only sound she could hear. Slowly, her eyes began to close. That's when it happened. A low, deep whisper slid into her ears. It was so soft at first, she thought she was dreaming already. "Sofia." Her eyes shot open. She froze. The voice came again, this time from the dark corner of her room. "I'm almost there." Her chest tightened. She couldn't see anyone, but the voice was clear, too clear. She slowly reached for her phone on the nightstand, but her hand trembled so badly, she nearly dropped it. She turned on the phone's flashlight and pointed it at the corner. The light revealed only her old wardrobe, but something was wrong. The wardrobe door was slightly open. Sofia's breathing grew fast and uneven. She didn't remember leaving it like that. She stepped out of bed, her bare feet cold against the floor. Slowly, she walked toward the wardrobe, holding the light in front of her. She pushed the door open. Nothing. Just clothes. But the smell hit her, a damp, rotting smell, the same one she had noticed in her dream hallway. Her heart thudded in her ears. She backed away, shut the wardrobe, and climbed back into bed. For the rest of the night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the voice to return. It didn't. But Sofia knew one thing for sure. It was only a matter of time before he stepped out of the shadows completely. The next morning, Sofia felt drained. She hadn't slept much, and her head felt heavy. She tried to convince herself the voice she heard was just her mind playing tricks. She went into the bathroom, turned on the light, and began brushing her teeth. The sound of the running water was comforting. It almost made her forget. But then something shifted. In the mirror, behind her, the bathroom door slowly moved, just an inch. She froze, toothbrush still in her mouth, eyes locked on the reflection. At first she thought it was nothing. But then in the gap of the door, she saw him. The pale man. He was standing perfectly still, wearing the same black hat, his face just as white and hollow-eyed as in her dreams. His head tilted slightly, like before, as if he was studying her. Sofia's heart jumped into her throat. She spun around instantly. The door was shut. No one was there. Her breathing turned fast and shallow. She looked back at the mirror, hoping she had imagined it. But there was nothing now. She quickly finished brushing her teeth, turned off the light, and walked out of the bathroom. But as she passed through the hallway, she caught a faint smell again, wet earth and rotting leaves. It lingered in the air for a few seconds before fading away. Sofia grabbed her phone and sat on the couch, trying to steady her hands. She thought about calling Mia, but what could she even say? "Hey, the dream man is in my mirror?" It sounded insane. Still, she knew what she saw. The man wasn't staying in her dreams anymore. He was here, and he was getting closer. That evening, Sofia sat curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone to distract herself. She opened her photo gallery, looking at old pictures of friends, vacations, and her cat. But then she noticed something strange. There was a new picture she didn't remember taking. Her stomach tightened as she tapped on it. The photo was of her sleeping in her bed. The angle looked like it was taken from inside her own room, just a few feet away. And in the dark corner of the picture, he was there. The man. His pale face was lit just enough by the glow of the lamp. His black hat cast a shadow over the top half of his face, but those empty black eyes were still visible. He wasn't smiling exactly, but his lips were curved, as if he was pleased. Sofia's hands shook as she stared at the screen. The details were too perfect for it to be fake. Her mind raced. How could someone have taken this? She lived alone. Her door was locked. Her windows were shut. She checked the photo's details, time, date, everything. It was taken at 3:17 a.m. last night. The same night she had heard his voice. Her breathing grew fast. She quickly went to her camera roll, trying to delete the picture, but before she could press the button, the screen went black for a second. When it came back on, the same picture was still there. But now, the man's head was tilted even more, and it looked like he was staring directly at the camera. She dropped the phone on the couch and backed away. This wasn't just a haunting. He was inside her home. That night, Sofia was terrified to fall asleep. She left every light in her apartment on, and even played music softly from her phone, hoping the noise would keep her awake. But exhaustion always wins. Her eyes grew heavy, Her head tilted to the side, and soon, she was in the dream again. Only this time, it wasn't the endless hallway. She was in her own bedroom. Everything looked exactly the same. The same blanket, the same lamp, the same half-open wardrobe. The only difference was the air. It felt thick, like breathing through water. She turned her head toward the corner. He was there. The man from her dreams. His black hat shadowed his face, but his pale skin almost glowed in the dim light. He wasn't standing far away now. He was kneeling, right beside her bed. Sofia couldn't move. Her body felt frozen, but her mind was screaming. He leaned closer. She could feel his cold breath on her cheek. It smelled of damp soil and rot, making her stomach twist. His lips parted slightly, and in that same deep, slow whisper he said, "You can't wake up this time." Her heart slammed in her chest. She tried to scream, but the sound died in her throat. His long, thin fingers reached toward her wrist, the same spot he had marked before. Just before his skin touched hers, the light in the room flickered wildly, and a loud, distant sound, like a door slamming, echoed through the air. Sofia jerked awake in her real bed, drenched in sweat. She gasped, clutching her chest. But as her eyes adjusted to the room, she realized something horrifying. The wardrobe door was open, exactly as it had been in the dream. Sofia sat up in bed, her heart racing. She stared at the open wardrobe, telling herself it didn't mean anything. Maybe she had left it open. Maybe she was still half dreaming. But then she heard it. A slow, steady sound. Breathing. Not hers. It was coming from the corner of the room. Her whole body froze. She forced herself to turn her head, inch by inch. And there he was. The man from her dreams, standing in the real world. His black hat cast a shadow over his face, but his pale skin seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Those empty black eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Her mouth went dry. What are you?" she whispered. He tilted his head the same way he always did in the dream, a faint curve of his lips forming that half-smile. Then he took one slow step forward. Sofia scrambled backward until her back hit the wall. She wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy. The man didn't speak. He just reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out, a small old-fashioned key. He held it up between two long fingers, as if showing it to her. Then, in that deep, rumbling whisper, he said, "Now the door is open." The lamp beside her bed flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. For a moment, the room was in total darkness. When the light came back on, he was gone. But on the floor, right where he had been standing, was the same small key, lying there as if waiting for her to pick it up. Sofia sat frozen on her bed, staring at the small key on the floor. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. It was cold, much colder than it should have been. She turned it over in her palm. It was old, heavy and rusted, with strange little marks scratched into the metal. They looked almost like symbols. Her heart was still pounding, but curiosity began to mix with her fear. What does it open? She searched her apartment, checking every lock she could find. The front door, the windows, even her drawers. None of them matched. Finally, her eyes fell on something she had never paid much attention to before. A small, thin door at the far end of her hallway, near the floor. It was built into the wall, like a crawl space. She had always assumed it was sealed shut. But now, the keyhole was the perfect size. Her chest tightened. Every part of her screamed not to open it, but her hand moved on its own. She knelt down, slid the key into the lock, and turned it. The click was louder than she expected. Slowly, she pulled the little door open. At first, she saw nothing but darkness. Then a smell hit her. Damp, rotting leaves. Wet earth. Her breath caught in her throat. From the shadows inside, two pale, long-fingered hands reached out and gripped the edge of the door. Sofia fell backward, scrambling away as a familiar black hat began to rise from the darkness. And then, the man's face appeared, smiling. "You opened it," he whispered. The lights in her apartment flickered and went out, leaving her in complete darkness. No one ever heard from Sofia again.